Well, here we are once again. We're at the G3 conference, and this is a big pleasure for me, Dr. Renihan, to interview you. I've been following your ministry, learned so much from you and your son as well. Helped me out on shaping my theology, if you will. So I really appreciate it, and really thank you for the interview. So we just want to spend a few moments talking to you, brother, and I had a question. I think a lot of our listeners maybe sometimes have struggled with understanding what exactly is a Reformed Baptist.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question, a fair question, and it's a relatively modern term. Begins to show up in the 1950s and has become much more common. Let's break it down. Two elements, Reformed and Baptist. Reformed has reference to the doctrines of the Protestant Reformation as they were understood by a group of churches, especially in Western Germany, in Switzerland, and in France, and then ultimately in England, who were committed to the principles of the Reformation: sola scriptura, sola Christ alone, faith alone, grace alone, Scripture alone, to God alone be glory. So Reformed churches after the Reformation are those churches that left Roman Catholicism behind. They weren't Lutheran because they didn't accept all of the ideas of the Lutherans, but they were committed to those 5 principles. Okay, so that's Reformed in general terms. Baptist, of course, means that the act of baptism is an act in which a person who is a disciple of Jesus Christ professes faith by being subject to the act of baptism, being put in the water and then brought out. And you probably have done baptisms. We say something like buried in the likeness of his death, raised in the likeness of his resurrection. So you put them together. We have Baptists who believe that baptism belongs to those who profess their faith, and they are committed to the doctrines of the Reformation as they came from Germany, Switzerland, France, and England. That's what it is. And that's the best way to express that is to say that among these churches that called themselves Reformed, there was a family of confessions that defined their faith. And there's the Westminster Confession, which Presbyterians use. It was called the Savoy Declaration, that belonged to the Congregationalists. And then there's the Second London Confession, sometimes called the 1689, like your hat, that is what the Baptists put out. They share lots in common, but they have differences on things like baptism. Does that help?
That helps.
Okay.
Yeah, it certainly helps. So you guys are out here promoting IRBS. Tell us a little bit about the school. The foundation of it, what you guys are trying to accomplish there. And they're in Mansfield, so we're in Dallas, so very close. So tell us a little bit about the school.
Okay. Yeah, we are in a sense 23, almost 24 years old, even though we've only been in Texas for about 3.5 years now. We're in our 4th academic year. Our whole goal is to provide pastoral training for men because we recognize that, number one, we have a responsibility based on what Paul tells Timothy, that he's to train men who will train other men, and we're, like 200 generations later, but still we're training other men is what we're doing. Because we believe that the next generation after us, our kids and our grandchildren, need to have pastors. So we're trying to help prepare them for that. We have both a residential and a virtual program. We work very closely with churches, but the whole goal, the whole purpose that we keep ourselves laser focused on is to train men for gospel ministry.
Awesome. So if someone wanted to get a hold of the IRBS of the seminary, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. A couple of ways. They could visit our website, which is irbsseminary.org, and there's 2 S's in the middle. You have to make sure to get those 2 S's, irbsseminary.org. Or they could send an email, giving@irbsseminary.org. Would also get them to someone who can begin to answer their questions and help them. Those are probably the 2 best ways. They could also send an email to admissions@irbsseminary.org, and that will put them in touch with the lady who handles all of our admissions questions for us. We would love to talk to anyone. Like I said, we have both residential studies, which means guys come and they live in the area and they come to class, but we also do everything virtually. So a student who lives at a distance can work through our whole program and receive the degree. We have the Master of Divinity degree, which is the traditional pastoral training degree. We have a Master of Arts. We have a diploma, which is for men who don't have a college degree, but it's the same as the Master of Divinity. We have a certificate, which is really intended to, it's only 5 courses, and it provides some enrichment, especially for pastors maybe who are in the ministry and they went to a different seminary and they didn't get all the things that they wish, so that's intended for them. And we welcome people to join with us and study, and we'd love to have them.
Yeah, I'd just like to encourage, our listeners, if you're looking for a good confessional seminary to send your men to, send your young men to, I encourage you to check them out. One last question. How you like your time in DFW so far?
Wow. You want a bad answer to that? It's hot. Oh, man, it's hot, yeah. And I'm really thankful that we're in September, or no, October now, because it's going to cool down. But last year in February, we had 0 degrees, I'm from the north, so I know what winter's like, and was able to. I sort of laughed at all the Texans who didn't know what to do with the snow. No. But I grew up with that, and I lived in it. But Dallas-Fort Worth area is 7.5 million people. So it's. I tell people I moved from San Diego to Anaheim, and they say, "What do you mean?" Well, in Anaheim you've got Disneyland. We've got Six Flags. Right. In Anaheim you've got the Angels and the Ducks, the hockey team. What do we have in Arlington? We have the Texas Rangers and the Dallas Cowboys. So all of those things are just trading them off. Yeah. Although I have to tell you, California is much more beautiful than North Texas is.
Have we converted you to a Cowboy fan yet?
A what?
Cowboy fan yet?
I support the New England Patriots.
Oh, okay. This interview's over. Now I'm playing. Dr. Renihan, I want to thank you for your time. God bless you, brother.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah.